Welcome, developers, to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massively powerful modern UI component for the B4X ecosystem. We're talking about the B4XDaisySegment segment. Look, if you've ever spent way too much time, maybe hours or even days, tweaking custom UI padding just to get a single button to look exactly right, well, you're in the right place. We're going to see how to finally upgrade your app's interface with buttery smooth transitions and pixel-perfect styling. Let's start by just being honest and acknowledging a really common headache we all face. Rigid, legacy, native segment controls. They can totally hold back a modern app design. They often feel stiff, they really don't scale well across different devices, and customizing them, man, it can be an absolute nightmare of workarounds. We're talking about writing endless lines of conditional layout code just to make one little button cluster look decent on both a phone and a tablet. But the B4XDaisy segment completely changes the game here. Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll meet the B4XDaisy segment. Second, we'll look at powerful layouts and styling. Third, theming colors and active states. Fourth, sizing, shadows, and shapes. And finally, number 5, we'll look under the hood at the actual B4X implementation. All right, let's jump right into Section 1. Meet the B4XDaisy segment, the Ionic version 8 emulator. Right out of the gate, we get an immediate visual upgrade. Notice how cleanly the basic layout handles both text and icons. With standard fixed-width segments displaying combinations of both, notice how perfectly balanced the spacing is when you combine a phone icon with the word call, or a heart icon with the word heart. It's super slick because the component dynamically measures the text and icon widths behind the scenes to keep everything perfectly centered and legible. No manual math required. But the really crucial point here is how it handles overflow. Fun fact for you. Cramped, truncated UI text is actually a leading cause of accidental taps and user frustration in mobile apps. Unlike standard fixed-width segments that cramp up your UI when you cram in too many options, the B4Daisy segment has this brilliant, simple little scrollable Boolean property. When you set that to true, it elegantly handles any overflow by dropping the buttons inside a smooth, animated horizontal scroll view. So what does that mean for us? It means you can offer 5, 6, or even 10 filter options without sacrificing readability or trashing your user experience. Moving on to Section 2, powerful layouts and styling, focusing on visual hierarchy control. Over in the designer properties, you're given total control through a property called button layout. You can use exact string variations to position your icons perfectly relative to your labels. You literally just type in icon start, icon end, icon top, or icon bottom. You can even use label hide or icon hide if you need to quickly strip elements out. Let me tell you, this is vastly cleaner and so much more efficient than having to completely destroy and recreate button objects from scratch just because you wanted to dynamically hide an icon. For instance, looking at a photos and music button setup, we can use the icon top layout where the SVG sits neatly right above that bold text. Then, on the flip side, icon bottom reverses that layout entirely. And what's really happening in the background here is that the component's internal math engine is recalculating the required button height, padding included of course, and dynamically scaling all those elements across both large and medium sizes. It just works. Okay, Section 3, theming colors and active states. Basically, how to avoid hex code spaghetti. So B4XDaisy segment comes packed with comprehensive out-of-the-box color strings. Let's be honest, we all love that incredible sigh of relief when we don't have to go look up hex codes for the 100th time today, right? Instead of passing RGB values everywhere, you simply assign semantic names. We're talking primary, secondary, success, warning, or error. You can apply these directly in the visual designer to both the background color and active color properties. Then the underlying B4XDaisy variants module instantly resolves them into beautiful, accessible palette colors. Notice how effortlessly these semantic themes adapt to scrollable icon-only segments. When the active color is set to primary, you get that really distinct modern purple-blue. Success yields a crisp, inviting green, while warning gives you a really eye-catching orange. And the best part? This applies simultaneously to the active container backgrounds and the embedded SVG icons, ensuring you always have perfect visual contrast. Also, by setting the general background color to transparent, those active states create a really beautiful, high-contrast visual pop. Just picture the bold green of a success state or the super vibrant red of an error state. Meanwhile, the inactive options just remain a subtle, muted gray. It's a great pattern because it directs the user's attention exactly where it needs to be, without overwhelming the screen. Let's hit Section 4, sizing, shadows, and shapes. Time to nerd out over some deep customization. The component exposes some very specific scale variables for us. For button size, you have everything ranging from extra small, or X, all the way up to extra large, XL. And for the rounded corner property, you can go from none for a completely sharp, rigid square, all the way up through SM, MD, LG, right to full. Ultimately, this means you can instantly match your specific branding guidelines, whether the design team wants sharp, brutalist squares or friendly, fully rounded pills, and you can do it without writing a single line of layout code. Just observe how flawlessly the underlying engine handles the scaling. Moving up from the extra small variant to the extra large variant, the component automatically resolves the typography and the padding using density-independent pixels. Extra small defaults to a nice, tight 11-point font, while extra large scales all the way up to a 22-point font, simultaneously expanding the dynamic width and those all-important touch targets. Take a rounded full pill shape, for example. The internal engine is actually calculating that radius by dynamically dividing the height by 2. And if you add a drop shadow, scaling from small to large, it elevates the entire control right off the page background. It adds this incredibly premium, tactile feel to the application that mobile developers absolutely love. And again, it's all triggered by simply changing one shadow property from none to MD or LG. So simple. Finally, Section 5, Under the Hood, looking at the actual B4X implementation. Let's talk about how this actually fits into your day-to-day coding workflow. It is a seamless 3-step process. First, the class is initialized with standard event callbacks. Second, Designer Create View grabs the base panel straight from your visual designer. And third, you populate the segment using some really simple methods at runtime. Contrast this incredibly short workflow with your typical boilerplate-heavy native Android or iOS complexity, and you can really see how straightforward integrating this into any standard B4X page truly is. The class exposes several excellent custom methods that emulate the Ionic API perfectly. You can really think of these as your essential toolkit. Add button lets you pass a value, text, and an icon path all at once. The streamlined helpers like add icon and add label are perfect if you just need one or the other. Set button color allows you to dynamically change individual button colors at runtime. Super handy. And of course, clear just wipes the control completely clean. You basically have total programmatic control over every single element. So what actually happens when a user taps a button? Well, when clicked, the segment btn_click routine fires off. It grabs the unique tag of the clicked view and triggers the animate indicator method. This method takes that new layout position and smoothly animates the indicator panel over exactly 200 milliseconds to its new X coordinate. Now, why does that specific timing matter? Because 200 milliseconds is the absolute sweet spot for UI animations. It's fast enough to feel incredibly snappy, but smooth enough to feel totally native and premium. It's a completely non-blocking, seamless UI state transition. And here is how you bring the whole shebang together. You capture the segment changed event, which just passes you the string value of the selected button. In a typical content switcher setup, you can then use that string to perfectly toggle the visibility of your main app content panels. If the user clicks first, you show the first content panel and hide the rest. It is incredibly clean, elegant state management. So think about the outdated native controls sitting in your current projects right now. Consider those rigid bounds, the lack of smooth animations, and the absolute struggle to implement custom semantic colors. With tools like the B4XDaisySegment completely abstracting away the complex math, the animations, and the theming, the question really isn't how long it will take to build a modern UI anymore. The real question is, what incredibly engaging user experience are you going to build next? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy coding.